And let's talk about where we are.
Wow, beautiful, isn't it?
It is beautiful.
We're in the orange section of the building. It's funny, kindergarten. So I do have to tell a little bit of a story, though. One of the township trustees, Rick Hutman, when we were choosing the colors for the schools, originally this was not supposed to be orange on the outside at Westwood, the new Westwood campus, but we thought we'd honor the old west side and make it orange. And at our open house last week, it was much appreciated that was definitely done. And kindergarten is orange across the district, so we are sitting in the kindergarten extended learning area. And we're on the short seats, Mrs. Higgins. I'm happy I still can get to the short seats, but it's just, you get goosebumps every time you walk in these new buildings, and then you think about what we've accomplished building 5 new campuses during COVID and the pandemic, and I kudos to everyone that worked on the project. It's just amazing.
So when you think about these schools and the design elements that are specific to the campuses and the elementaries, you were on the early stages during the whole beginning of what these schools would ultimately look like, and they do kind of refer to this as flexible learning for the 21st century. But what does that mean? So talk a little bit specifically about why these schools are kind of unique.
Right. And 5 years ago, it was called the POR Design Team, Program of Requirements, and we had teachers as part of that as well. But what we did is, the 21st century learning is more about giving our students the skills to be successful in the working world after they leave us. So critical thinking, problem solving, a more collaborative work environment. So what better place to train them for that than to integrate these elements into the everyday learning in Elyria City Schools. So as you see us in the extended learning area, this might be where students come out to do some collaboration around the amoeba-shaped table, as you see here, or with their Chromebooks, or also to, as you can see, we have where the teachers can see them as they're working, wherever they're working. But in some of the studios, in the upper grades, we have garage doors and movable walls that lends to teams working together and teachers working together. I think that helps provide those skills that are so necessary. I think about our own work situation where we're constantly working together. It's not about siloed departments anymore, it's about working together. So we want to prepare our students for that environment.
And let's talk a little bit about these colors. I mean, you mentioned that kindergarten is orange across the district, and we have these color paths and accent colors on the walls and in the ceiling. What does that actually has a purpose, though?
Sure. So on the walls, and we actually had a committee on color, and some of the staff, teachers, picked the colors they thought fit best to each grade level. But across the district, as I said, the orange is kindergarten, and the stripe across the floor is called wayfinding. That way, if a 5-year-old is out in the big portion of the building, they can just say, it's kind of like the yellow brick road.
Yeah.
Orange takes us back home. But in our first and second, we have a blue color, and a third and fourth, I call it safety green. It's a yellow-green color. But we also made sure, and very purposefully, if you look up, it's very industrial looking. That's a teaching point. The architects eventually will come in and work with classes, which we're excited about, but AVG, our architect firm, really told us this is the new way of teaching students how things are built. So we tried to integrate, some colors and up there. Each room has one color wall that's a little lighter shade of the ones that are the main colors. So it was all very purposeful in the learning process. And it's neat for students to see what's usually covered up by the ceiling, right? But all the the internet network, wires and everything else. It's pretty cool.
So, Ann, you've been in the district
A long time. Go ahead, say
your whole
it.
career, right? Your
Yes,
whole career,
yes,
and
yes.
You grew up here.
I did. I
So,
did.
as you look at Elyria schools today, and over the years that you were in the teaching realm, how has it changed? What are some of the major differences in your opinion?
Sure, sure. Well, I like to tease and tell people I've been here since I was 5. Besides me actually going to the school, I've been here 30 years. Are there changes? Absolutely. Everyone's going through changes, especially the last couple years. But I'll go back to that. I couldn't be more proud to see what our teachers and staff have done to help our families during the pandemic. The way learning has evolved, I can tell you, sitting in 5th grade with Mr. McDermott back at Prospect Elementary, I remember my face and my eyes when we got our first computer in the class. I know that ages me, but now you take that to a whole new level where that is the main way that a lot of our students communicate, whether it be a cell phone or a Chromebook, and how our teachers work with Clever Touches and interactive TVs, and the students get to work with them. And then knowing that we're a Google district and our students are going on Google Meets and Google Hangout and all those wonderful things, I know that prepares them for the outside world, as I call it, but understand that was a learning curve for our staff as well, because some of us oldies come from the making sure we have every little cursive letter done correctly, and now they're just blowing us away with the technology. And I would say that's probably the biggest change. But also the collaborative nature of teaching now. Most teachers just went in their room and shut their door back when we were in school, and now you see them collaborating, networking, students know more than one teacher as their teacher, and I think that's all for the better, because as we know, the more adults they can be with, the more different things they get to learn from them. So. But technology, I would say, is probably the number one change. We don't have those old, big, tall, desk-sized computers, and now the kids are taking home a Chromebook every night. It's exciting.
And, you touched on it, and I don't think we can really get out of doing this interview without talking about COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to linger there, obviously. But we actually learned a lot from COVID, wouldn't you say? You mentioned the technology piece. And what are some of the things that you're most proud of in going through an experience like that together and coming out on the other side?
Yeah, and it's so ingrained in my brain. March 13th of 2020, just getting that call from the governor. And first and foremost, just how our staff reacted. Right away, oh my goodness, what can we do for our kids? We started right away developing at-home packets, at-home work, because at that point we weren't ready for the technology. We had it, but no warning of, hey, these students are going to have to go home and work with you online. So we did more at-home work at that point through the spring. The biggest thing in the spring was just starting to find a way to help our families just with everyday life. I would say beyond the education point, that's something I'm extremely proud of. We were giving out 55,000 meals a week, and you could go any day of the week and see our teachers, our food service employees, our maintenance employees, our paraprofessionals, and administrators standing in an apartment complex handing out food, or on a corner handing out food. And kudos to First Student in Aramark for also helping with that. We started working with Second Harvest on food pantries, and we still do those once a month out at the stadium. So Molly Knight, a Westwood teacher, she's an algebra teacher, 8th grade, has really been here from the beginning. Right when we started working with the COVID food pantries, Molly has been to every single one of them, even in the summer. And I can't say enough about her leadership when it comes to the pantries. We put all the newbies with her, and she breaks them in for us. So, Molly, why do you do this every month?
These are our families, our kids, and I come out here to help out our families and our kids. It is 2.5, 3 hours of the toughest work that we will do. We're exhausted when we're done, but again, these are our kids, and we're doing it for our kids and our families. And being an Elyria school teacher, again, this is us, and I think we need to be out here helping ourselves. So I appreciate you.
We thank you, and we can't say enough about everything you do for us, Molly, and I know that the families do appreciate it.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate being able to help, so thank you.
You know, when I think back and reflect, and I've done a lot of that, because there are things that we learned throughout the pandemic that we need to keep, and one of them being the technology. We are prepared at any time to go to a blended learning situation, which is phenomenal. Our students know how to use Google Meets and Zoom and all those things that we had to learn as adults as well, so we learned together. I think it's also made us think about how we communicate with families. All of the buildings are doing what they call s'more newsletters now that are very similar. You yourself are sending them out to parents. So we've become much more communicative on a regular basis. Even though we were pretty good at it beforehand, we've had to become very good at it. But even things like this, you know, thinking about more of the way people can not come and see you stand up and give a speech, but yet, hey, at a convenient time, let me play this and look at this. Those are all things that I think being able to be flexible in our day-to-day work life really has come out of COVID and been a positive. You know, much more than the negative part of just people getting sick and moving around, and you know, that is something that was very difficult for all of us.
And this year, we actually came back. We all came back.
Yeah.
And as much as we learned, I guess, from COVID with the technology, and we're still using a lot of those aspects, there's nothing like having them right in front of you, right?
Yeah, you know, just that feel-good aspect, first and foremost, to see those bright smiles in those eyes. But we all know as educators that face-to-face is much more effective. We were put in a situation we couldn't do that before. So now that we can, and we seem to be handling the pandemic, and I think it's kind of fading away a little bit, having the students with us, and we're still taking those precautions of, you know, masking is optional, but we still have a lot of staff and students wearing masks. We're still cleaning like we should clean and have hand sanitizer. So those are all things I don't know that will go away, but what I can tell you is having those kiddos right in front of us, there's nothing better. And I see that with the students. You know, we've talked a lot about the mental health issues that have come up during the pandemic, and we're addressing a lot of those. We've had parent sessions with Dr. Barlow. I know you just did a podcast with her, but we've also had to, you know, really work with students, and every building has a social worker and a counselor that can address some of these mental health issues. Anytime you take a child out of their surrounding and change it, that's hard for them. Change is difficult. We know how difficult it is for older adults like us, but you put that in front of a student. So we're working through all of that, and I'm so proud of what our staff has done to address those needs.
And the government has stepped in and tried to help with that. They've provided funding to schools. It's got a funny name, ESSER.
So the ESSER funds were, we call it kind of a gift, and what it is it's part of the CARES Act money, and we have spent a lot of money that we normally wouldn't have spent on technology and just new staffing. So what we've tried to do is keep a level of staffing and then beyond. We've hired new people to keep that level where we can work with the students that really are struggling. And then added, like I said, the social workers, nurses, and some added staff. We're going to even be adding more next year to help us deal with some of the behaviors that we're seeing. And, you know, if I could just go a different route for a moment, you know, we really are seeing some behaviors in this small population of students that are really struggling through what they've been through the last year or two with the pandemic, whether they've lost loved ones or mom and dad have lost their job or what have you. And we need the continued support of the relatives, as I say, mom and dad and aunt and uncle, because we're really trying to work with these students, and these behaviors are new to us as well. You know, obviously kids like to act up at times, but what we're seeing right now is at a different level. And we'll continue to work with the parents, but always love to have their support on a day-to-day basis to get back into what we would call the normal day-to-day life in school. But the ESSER money has helped us to do some things that we wouldn't have been able to do. We're doing more with summer school. We're doing more with the way we purchase some of our curricular materials. They have an online component in case this ever happens again. Plus, we know that we're building technology into our day-to-day online school life. So that's important. But really excited about what it has enabled us to do, having that extra money, and the government, you know, obviously saw the need for education to have that money. So,
And you know, we've talked a little bit about being here at Westwood. Westwood just opened.
On January 3rd, Westwood campus opened. We were delayed. It was supposed to open with Eastern Heights back in August, but we had some soil issues and things of that nature. Not to get too technical, I'm learning things I never knew before. I don't think I'll ever build a house. I said, I've built 5 buildings, so that's enough. But we delayed. We decided not to try to rush it. So we delayed, and we're still working on parts of the old Westwood. But boy, is it a beautiful building. You know, they're all unique in their own way. This is the only one that has curves. The others are much more angles, and this one's got some curves. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Westwood, Old Westwood.
Old Westwood.
So, I mean, are we done now? What happens now? You said we're going to Westwood,
Yeah.
and the preschool village is going to the old Crestwood.
Right, and we're hoping to have a new name for that. I don't know. It'll have village in it, though. I know people want village.
They like the village people.
But I will say we are also working, and this is exciting, but I know President Ellick of the school board has been talking a little bit about it at the board meetings, but we're actually going to finish phase 2 out at the stadium as well. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited. What that's going to involve is the, you know, putting some restrooms in, much needed restrooms between the baseball and the tennis courts, and then also putting a softball field over there and redoing some of the baseball fields. And some walkways in the parking lot. So we're really excited about that. It's, I think then we're probably done, at least in my superintendent's lifetime, for a little bit, but we're definitely excited about the future and what this holds. I don't know of any other school system that did as much as we did in such a short period of time, and really now to say that our 12-year-old high school is the old building in the district is, yeah, it's pretty unique and crazy, but we're really excited.
Well, you brought up the stadium.
Yes.
And I mean, it is now 2 or 3 years old.
3, yeah.
3 years old. But wow, what a space. And we joined a new conference this year. So talk a little bit about the athletic side of this building project.
Yes, very much so. Very proud of the stadium, and phase 2 is going to be gorgeous. I think the thing that makes me most proud is when I see the faces of the other teams coming into our stadium and like, wow, this is like a college campus. And it really is. It's so unique. And AVG, our architects, and AECOM, the builders, they did a fabulous job, and the design team. I will say that it's second to none. It really is. And then moving into the Southwest Conference, which is so good for kids, because now they're playing against some of the competitors that day to day they are in club teams with, and live down the street, maybe in the city next to them. And we're doing okay. Our wrestling team won SWC. Our 8th grade basketball team over at Eastern Heights won SWC. So we're holding our own. We're hoping to get better in some of the others, but I think it's just much more unique and wonderful for our students to be able to just drive down the street and not have those 11 o'clock bus rides to Mentor and Solon. But we're really excited. They've been trying to get in SWC for years. Now, adding on to that, some really neat work we're doing with the SWC is with Dr. James Knight. And we're doing both middle school and high school summits on just camaraderie, sportsmanship, not just on the athletic field, but also in the classroom and at games when they have the student sections. We want the students to understand we're all on the same team. We might be competitors at times, but we're on the same team. And we're really excited about that work. We had the high school one in March. We have the middle school one coming up on April 29th. And I know you went to it, and just a really neat thing to watch the students collaborate and understand we're the same. We might have different zip codes, but we're the same.
And so as we look ahead, all of this costs money, obviously. We're customer service business.
Sure.
We deliver education. And how are we looking financially? And, I know we have some important renewals coming up.
We do.
So let's look at just the finance piece.
Sure. So right now, I will say we have not asked for operating monies. I think it's going on 12 years now, which is unheard of in this day and age. It just shows the community how diligent we are being with their money. So that being said, we said back then it would last 10 years, and we've kept that promise and gone beyond. I will say the CARES Act money helped us with that. It's allowed us to use some of that money for some of the things normally that would come out of the general fund. The other piece to that is we do have 2 renewals coming up, which is about 20 mils of our operating money in 23 and 24, but they're renewals, so it's nothing new. And it will help us continue in this fashion. Right now, our 5-year forecast looks great, but we do need these renewals passed. So you'll start to hear from us very soon with the renewals, but to not have to ask for additional money is remarkable in this day and age. And our community has always been so supportive. It's unbelievable what they've done with just the bond issue and building all these new beautiful buildings to enable us to do what we do best, and that's teach children. And I think that our financial outlook with that is wonderful as well, but we do need those 2 renewals passed.
And you talked about the connection with community. One of the things we're doing internally with staff is working on ourselves and connecting with kids and community. Talk a little bit about the work we're doing with Schlechte.
Sure.
And some of the other collaborations to make those connections.
Sure. So this is our 3rd year with Schlechte. It's kind of an educational think tank from Kentucky, but they work with districts on their strategic plans, on getting to know their who. And that sounds kind of weird. Well, you know your students, but do we? It's more than just knowing what they present when they sit in front of us. It's about knowing where they come from, maybe some of the obstacles they're going through in day-to-day family life. So we've done focus groups with community members, with parents. We'll continue to do them. Dr. Rowland is our advisor from Schlechte, and she's going to be working as part of, we're going to be embarking on a strategic plan in the fall with a company, and Schlechte, Dr. Rowland is going to be a part of that, and many stakeholders in the community. Stay tuned. But, you know, it's really, the community partnerships are unbelievable. And just to name a few, some of the local foundations, Nordson, Nord, Stocker, Community Foundation, some of the local companies like Elyria Manufacturing and Invacare and Bendix, they've been so good to us. And they continue to help us provide things that normally a school district can't provide, like a maker spaces and the stuff that goes in the maker spaces, supporting some of the field trips that our students take to tech summits and other things. So we're blessed. We have a community that just doesn't stop giving, and it really shows. And we saw it, the open house day, so many community members coming through. We didn't know what to expect, kind of a cold day on April 2nd, but they came through and were just wowed with what they saw.
And you mentioned the strategic plan. A lot of places, they might, feel the need to do a strategic plan, and then it sits in a binder on a shelf and gets dusty until they dust it off and do a new one. But ours is planned to be a working strategic plan.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about what your expectations are with that process.
So to get to that process, we've been living under our master plan for about 4 years, and we really had to finalize this project first. So now the strategic plan, it's really the day-to-day operations of the district. How do we do things? So it's the soft skills, it's the technical skills, it's what are our belief statements? Where do we go from here now that we have all these 21st century learning centers, so to speak? But the strategic plan is a working document, and it's how we should be operating day to day and getting the input from the community members, the parents, our own board, our own staff members, because everybody has to have a voice in what we do, because that's what makes us so unique and do the best job for our students. So we're looking forward to it. I know with the Schlechte piece, it's all about design, engaging students, and then what we'll probably work with Burgess is more on the operational day-to-day strategic thinking. But we're always looking to get better. I tell people all the time, status quo isn't in our vocabulary, because if it was, we wouldn't be growing. And we always have to continue to do what's best for students. And just like during the pandemic, we found things we weren't good at. And we grew from that, and we have to continue to do that. And that's what a strategic plan is, taking us to that next level.
And as we wrap up our interview, our staff, I mean, what do you want to say about our staff? It's been as many wonderful things that have happened. It's been a challenging return,
very much,
challenging 2 years. What do you want to say about the work that they've done?
The hardest thing when you're talking about staff and what they've been through over the last 2 years is, for administrators, for us, is we always are trained to fix. And we couldn't fix this. It wasn't going away. And what we saw go on and the effects, not only on the students and the families, but our own staff, was heartbreaking. It truly was. I think to watch them make it through, and for a lot of them, that's all they could do, is just make it through and come out on the positive side. Like, some of the emails that we've gotten, because it was difficult for all of us too. It's just seeing them come together and always choosing the side of what's best for our students and families. It's truly amazing.
Clearly, this is a topic that's close to your heart.
There she goes
as
again.
it should be, as it should be.
Yes,
it
yes.
hasn't been easy for anybody, and that's okay.
No. So, over the last couple of years, a lot of the supports and what we've done has been very driven for families and students. And we've done some things for staff, but we just put out an email to them about some of the things, after doing a survey twice this year, we've tried to address some of the things that were really concerning to them and the help they needed. And we just put out an email, and I've gotten a couple of emails back that were, hey, thanks for listening. And that's important. We can't lose sight of us. We can't lose sight of what has happened to the adults in this situation. And I think we have some good ideas and some unique things, and we hope the parents and the community will support. But I'm excited because I think that it just shows how much we care for everyone, and what they have given of themselves is just truly remarkable. But we can't lose sight of what they need. So.
Yeah. And you wear your heart on your sleeve.
I know.
As you do. That's okay. That's wonderful. It makes us human. But some of the supports we have, they're not all human. We have Sophie and we have
we
Betty.
do. Sophie and Betty,
And the regulars in our school.
they are. It's kind of funny. I think you might have to help me on Wednesday. They've been enlisted to read a chapter. Now, understand they're still pre-K. They don't read yet. But Betty and Sophie will be here on Wednesday to help with the Northwood Elementary one book. So they're reading a book about dogs, so I have to make this work, Marty. So we're doing that on Wednesday, but they do love to come. I know Betty came to the open house. You know what's so cool, and I saw it yesterday at the wonderful Wizard of Oz play that the high school put on, but probably one of the neatest things is the reaction animals put on people's faces, just to allow that warm feeling, and you forget about everything when a dog just comes up and wants a big hug. So Betty and Sophie do that for a lot of kiddos, and they come periodically to say hi, and I think Betty might be on a couple behavior plans over at Eastern Heights. but that's good. That's all good.
So to wrap up, I mean, lots of great things coming.
Yes.
Lots of excitement in the Elyria schools.
I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to next year. Not that this year doesn't have some time left, but we just have so many things that I know we're going to be able to do with the pandemic slowing down, and just gear up for happy things and positive things and what we do best, educating kiddos, and I'm just so excited and couldn't be more proud of the Elyria City Schools daily.
Yes.
So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Oprah.